Bob. This video, we're going to continue the March to the King series. This one, we're going to rewind review Godzilla versus Destroyah. Okay, guys, just so you know, before we get into this rewind review, I just want to let everyone know that I've mentioned this in two videos, but I'm going to mention it here because I know a lot of you guys will watch the rewind review for the March of the King series. I will be taking questions for more Q&A videos. So if you want to either email me or if you want to, don't inbox me on YouTube. I check that like once every 3 weeks. So I know that's horrible. It's just between the Facebook, the emails, and everything else, that's like the last thing I go to. So definitely email me. I'll leave my email in the description. And I'll give it a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And when I think I get enough questions in, then I'll start doing the videos. And like I said, I mentioned this on my channel update, and I mentioned this on my 3K video that may or may not be up at this point. I might have put this up before that one, but I mentioned it there as well. So that's all I want to mention. So on to the movie. So Godzilla versus Destroyah, the final movie in the Heisei series. I can't believe it's over. Not that much to go before we get to the very end of this very long marathon that started way back on ET. Now, this movie, I thought it was good. I actually liked it, and I think the reason I liked it is because it referenced a lot to the 54 movie with the Oxygen Destroyer and Serizawa and things of that nature. I thought Destroyah was obviously he's one of the cooler looking monsters that they've ever created, but I'm gonna get to him a little bit later. But anyway, obviously in this one we saw Junior gets a little bit bigger. He's, you know, good size. He's starting to get up there, and Godzilla is going through a nuclear meltdown. Yes, he is finally expiring, so to speak. But look, the movie was really good. A couple of things that I can nitpick about the very opening sequence when Godzilla's rummaging through Tokyo. You can see him wrecking buildings and stuff like that. But if you look at the foreground, there's still buses going by. There's still people walking the streets like nothing's going on. I know it's a nitpick because 9.5 times out of 10 you're going to be focusing on him, but it kind of bothered me. It really did. It bothered me that here's this big monster running around the city and nobody's paying any attention to him. So it was a little bit annoying, but nonetheless, I could look beyond that. So anyway, in this movie, there's a scientist trying to develop a device, and it's based or has very similar attributes to the oxygen destroyer developed by Serizawa. The lady asks him, you know, if that falls into the wrong hand, could it be made into a weapon? He admits that it could. Sure enough, there's a monster that develops out of this. It starts as a very small little destroyer, a little baby destroyer. It looks actually like a drone it looks very much like a drone from StarCraft, from the Zerg faction. You see the little drones from the Zerg, if any of you guys have played that. It looks just like the little destroyer when he's first born and pops out the little vial. So anyway, to get to the meat and the potatoes, really, because we all basically know the story if you haven't seen the movie. Anyway, Destroyer gets created, and he starts off as a little, like I said, a little thing, a little like germ or whatever, and he continues to grow, and then he turns out to be more than one. It looks like there was about 6 of them, and they start getting larger and larger. And there's this one scene that really reminded me of the train scene from Gamera versus Legion. I don't know which of the two movies came out first. I haven't looked. I know they all came out in the 90s. I just don't know what year. So it could be that Gamera might have gotten it from them or vice versa. But it's very similar to that scene where the military or the cops or whatever, law enforcement, are trying to get control of these monsters, and the monsters are just all over the place. And while it looks violent, there really is no blood. Like, for example, one of the little destroyers takes his tail and looks like he impales one of the guys and then shoves him up to the building, but you don't see any blood. He shoots his beams at this one guy, but you don't really see any damage. You just see, like, he gets hit with a beam. And all the meanwhile, the government is trying to figure out a way to avoid catastrophe from Godzilla's nuclear meltdown. If they don't find a way to either completely stop it or subdue it or whatever, basically his meltdown is going to cause the end of the world, because he will ignite and explode with such force. It's not going to just be centralized in Japan. So to make a long story short, they keep an eye on his temperature. All the while, Mickey's looking for Junior because some believe he might be dead because of what happened on the island they were staying in, or staying on, I should say. And basically, they come up with a pretty nifty idea. Something that after I saw this movie again, because I've seen it, this is like the fourth time I've seen it, but this is the first time I've seen it in quite some time, so there were some things I forgot. But they actually came up with a very good idea, which was to like freeze him. You know, they started shooting beams at him that increased his bodily temperature to the point where he was like he was like frosty, literally frosty. And it did a good job, at least if nothing else, buying them time. Now they thought that it would work completely, but eventually the meltdown is so strong that it only bought them a couple of hours before he returned right back to being destructive, number one, and still melting down. So, in this time, Godzilla Jr. finally surfaces, and from the last time you saw him, he grows a great deal. He basically looks like a mini Godzilla. And Mickey is very reluctant to use him as bait to lure Godzilla out, but at the same time, they still have Destroyah on the horizon. So, little Godzilla gets into the city, and we're going to get into this whole Destroyah thing in a minute. Godzilla Jr. and Destroyah in his second to last form get into a nice fight. Now, at this point, all the little crabbies that were fighting the military guy, the law enforcement or whatever, have merged to create a bigger Destroyah, about the size of, a little bit bigger than Godzilla Jr., but not quite that big, not quite like Godzilla size. And they get into a little scuffle. And for the most part, Destroyah has the upper hand. The first time he flies by and knocks him over, then he shoots a building, shoots Godzilla Jr. through a building, and then he knocks a building on Godzilla Jr. Godzilla Jr. in the first part got a couple of shots in with his radiation. Then he lands on Godzilla Jr. Godzilla Jr. blasts radiation and blows off some of his limbs. But Destroyah basically impales him. He's got like a xenomorph thing going on where he opens the mouth and another mouth comes out and can bite. Well, he does that right into Junior's chest and gaping hole full of blood. And then Junior took it like a man, took it like a champ, got up, blew him with atomic breath, and sent him flying into a building, basically beating him. He basically even though for the most of the fight, Destroyah had the upper hand, Godzilla Jr. basically showed very Godzilla-like powers. It was very durable during the fight, and all it took was a couple of shots of radiation to put him out for the count. So at this point, Godzilla makes his way into the city. Just as that happens, Destroyah takes his final form, and Godzilla's temperature is getting to the point where he's going to reach complete meltdown, all the while dealing with Destroyah. Destroyah basically takes Junior. This is the part where I have a problem, but I'm going to get into that in a second. Basically takes Junior and flies over the city with him, and then drops him from a very, very high distance into a building, essentially, I guess, killing him to some extent. Either that or severely injuring him. I really couldn't tell because later on when they showed him when he was with Godzilla, he looked like he was still moving and breathing. But anyway, so then Godzilla and Destroyah get into their fight. Destroyah does some wicked moves, and I think this is why so many people think he's Godzilla's strongest opponent. We'll get into that in a minute. So he drags Godzilla around. They fight. He actually breaks down into the little crabbies again to annoy Godzilla. They all attack him from different angles. And very good fight, but at the end of the day, Godzilla prevails. Okay, he blasts the shit out. Actually, I shouldn't even say Godzilla prevails. The military prevailed. Because the military were coming to freeze Godzilla again, or to shoot him with the ice weapons. And when Destroyah was about to take off, they all shifted their weapons to him, and they blasted him out of the sky, and that was basically it. Very underwhelming end for what is believed to be his strongest opponent. So Godzilla melts down. The government prevents the destruction by using these freezing weapons, and that's it. And then later on, you hear everybody saying their dialogue, this is what nuclear weapons do, this is why with this, the whole message of nuclear weapons, which we've been getting for the last 28 movies, more or less. And then finally it pans to the city, and then you see a dark, like almost like a tunnel, not a tunnel literally, but it's dark, and then as it pans in close, you see a light, and then you see Godzilla, or what is believed to be Godzilla Jr., and then the end of the movie. It was a good movie. It was very, very good. I liked it. I liked the story a lot. It was a lot better. Destroyah. This movie further convinces me that Destroyah is just not his toughest enemy. Bar none, he's not. Number one, as much as that fight with Junior pretty much tells me he's not, because Junior blasted him like 3 or 4 times and pretty much put him to an end. If you want to be technical, it pretty much took Destroyah's third form just to kill Junior. And the only way he killed him was by dropping him from a very high distance onto a building, which, to be quite honest, that to me looks like, I take that more as a cop-out for the writers to make the movie a little bit more dramatic. Because if he didn't die with a bite to the chest, bleeding profusely, and on top of that, one of the characters saying that he was injecting him with the oxygen just Destroyah, I don't know, particles or whatever, he didn't even die from that. He didn't even break a sweat. So the fact that he dies from being dropped from such a high height, to me, tells me that that was just added for dramatic effect. And really, technically, he didn't die. He came back. He became the new Godzilla in that story. In terms of his fight with Godzilla, I've seen plenty of movies where Godzilla gets butt raped like that. In fact, to me, I think he got it worse from Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla actually came close to killing him without him having to kill himself because of a meltdown. Now, I know Godzilla was at his most powerful, but a lot of monsters have shown that they can take a couple of shots from Godzilla's atomic breath. And even in this movie, the first shot Destroyah got from him, the guy was spewing up blood. So I don't know how many more shots he could have taken. We would never know because the military got involved. And if you're a monster that dies to the military in a kaiju movie, yeah. So, you know, but look, I'm just messing. At the end of the day, it's all opinion based. You know, I know a lot of people are a big fan of the monster, and I don't blame you. It's a well crafted design monster. It looks very devastating. It does have some sick attacks, but in my personal opinion, based on all the Godzilla movies I've ever seen in my life, and I've been watching them since I was 3 years old, and I've seen every movie. Nah, he's had much tougher than that. Much tougher than that. Destroyah was definitely an interesting monster, but I don't even. I just don't think that he was that tough of a fight. I mean, yeah, he beat him up a little bit, but so has every other monster. There's nothing new to that. And basically he lost to Godzilla Jr. Godzilla Jr. blasted him into a building, and he had to take a third form just to come back and kill him. So that's Godzilla Jr. Not even talking about Godzilla. That's Godzilla Jr. There's no final answer as to whether or not he would have ever beaten Godzilla, because really Godzilla would have beaten himself. He was on a meltdown. So as much as I like Destroyah, definitely not, in my opinion, one of Godzilla's toughest enemies. He's just not. It's so evident that it's kind of it's just evident. If you're a kaiju that dies to the military, sorry, you're not tough. Not in my opinion. So, but anyway, guys, that's it for this review. Just to let you guys know, we will be doing another rewind review next week for the March of the King. And then after that, we're going to take a 2-week break again. And then after that, starting in, I think it's April, that's it. It's going to be the Millennium Series, Godzilla 1954, and Godzilla Raids Again. And then that's it. At that point, we'll be right at the doorstep for Godzilla 2014. So that'll be very exciting. Next week, rewind review, like it or not, Godzilla 1998. Yes, I am going to do it. So for the sake of consistency, if nothing else. So that's it, guys. Take it easy. This is Rob signing off for ETN, where we don't do news. We just talk entertainment. See you next video. Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. I'm your host, Rob. This video, we're going to continue the March to the King series. This one, we're going to rewind review Godzilla vs. Destroyah. Okay, guys, just so you know, before we get into this rewind review, I just want to let everyone know that I've mentioned this in 2 videos, but I'm going to mention it here because I know a lot of you guys will watch the rewind review for the March of the King series. I will be taking questions for more Q&A videos. So if you want to either email me, or if you want to, don't inbox me on YouTube. I check that like once every 3 weeks. So I know that's horrible. It's just between the Facebook, the emails, and everything else, that's like the last thing I go to. So definitely email me. I'll leave my email in the description. And I'll give it a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And when I think I get enough questions in, then I'll start doing the videos. And like I said, I mentioned this on my channel update, and I mentioned this on my 3K video that may or may not be up at this point. I might have put this up before that one, but I mentioned it there as well. So that's all I want to mention. So on to the movie. So Godzilla versus Destroyah, the final movie in the Heisei series. I can't believe it's over. Not that much to go before we get to the very end of this very long marathon that started way back on ET. Now, this movie, I thought it was good. I actually liked it, and I think the reason I liked it is because it referenced a lot to the 54 movie with the Oxygen Destroyer and Serizawa and things of that nature. I thought Destroyer was, obviously, is one of the cooler looking